So we are starting the next part of this same chapter, that is the endocrine. Now coming to the next endocrine gland, that is adrenal gland. This is one of the most important gland in our body. So we have a pair of adrenals are present at the interior part of the kidneys. So as you can see in this diagram, ये kidney है और इसके tip पे ये triangular shaped gland है, that is called as the adrenal gland. And if we make a cross section of this gland, so this is the diagram of the cross section of this gland, we will find that it can be divided into two types. Outer will be adrenal cortex and centrally located will be adrenal medulla. This is a unique gland. In what way? कि जो इसका origin है, जहाँ से adrenal cortex form होता है, वो mesoderm से है. So germless mesoderm. एंड जो एड्रिनल मेडुला है वो कहाँ से ओरिजिनेट होता है? फ्रॉम एक्टोडर्म. अदरवाइज नॉर्मली बाकी एंडोक्राइन ग्लैंड्स में दे आर origin is from the same germ layers. You might have read कि at the time of development 3 primary germ layers form होते हैं. You have the outer ectoderm, you have the mesoderm and the inner endoderm. So adrenal cortex is formed from mesoderm, adrenal medulla is formed from ectoderm. Same जहाँ से हमारा nervous system भी form होता है, it's formed from the ectoderm. So now coming to the outer adrenal, that is adrenal cortex. So what we said just now, कहाँ से form होता है? mesoderm से. And this adrenal cortex, this is the adrenal cortex, it can be divided into 3 layers. कौन सा है? outer zona glomerulosa. So बाहर वाला layer zona glomerulosa. Middle zona means layer fasciculata. So middle will be zona fasciculata and inner will be zona reticularis. So you can find that the inner is zona reticularis. So these are the 3 layers of the adrenal cortex. Now coming to the hormones. So here in this case, in the adrenal cortex, there is a group of hormones secreted. Not 1 or 2 or 3, but a group hai. And these group of hormones are steroid hormones. What do you mean by steroid? That means they are derived from cholesterol. And these are called as corticoids. So these corticoids can be grouped into 3 categories. First क्या है? Mineralocorticoids. Second group will be glucocorticoids. And the third group will be sex corticoids. Coming to mineralocorticoids. As the term, as you can see, mineral. Minerals means which is the main mineral in our body? Sodium. So what it is going to regulate? Sodium, potassium levels in our blood. So from where it is secreted? It will be secreted from the outer zona glomerulosa. जो outer layer अभी हमने बोली थी, that is zona glomerulosa. It will be secreted from there. And what is going to stimulate its secretion is this renin-angiotensin system. So if you recall, you have read this before. That means when there is a fall in the sodium concentration, renin will be stimulated and that will convert angiotensinogen into angiotensin 1 and then into angiotensin 2, and that will act upon this zona glomerulosa and stimulate it to secrete the mineralocorticoids. अब main hormone कौन सा है mineralocorticoids में? That is aldosterone. So secretion of aldosterone will be stimulated when there is a fall in the sodium concentration. अगर sodium concentration में fall है तो blood volume भी कम होगा. So there will be a fall in the blood volume and there will be a rise in the potassium levels. Now how this aldosterone is going to help in this, you have already read in your excretory system कि sodium का reabsorption होगा actively in the DCT, in the nephron. Along with this active uptake of sodium कहाँ से? Salivary gland से, sweat से sodium भीतर लाया जाएगा, will be taken up, and from the alimentary canal or the gut. और जितना सोडियम का अपटेक होगा उतना potassium will be eliminated in the urine. So this aldosterone is going to maintain our salt and water balance and obviously blood pressure and blood volume, because sodium has an osmotic effect. Jitna sodium reabsorb hota hai utna water is also reabsorbed, so it's also going to increase our blood volume and our blood pressure. Now coming to the disorders, though it's not listed in your NCERT book, first is the Addison disease. Addison's disease will be due to aldosterone deficiency. So अगर aldosterone की कमी है तो uptake नहीं होगा सोडियम में, तो हमारे ब्लड में सोडियम लेवल्स कम होंगे, पोटेशियम लेवल्स हाई होंगे, ब्लड वॉल्यूम कम होगा, ब्लड प्रेशर कम होगा. So these are some of the symptoms of Addison's disease. Addison is also known as the father of endocrinology. Next you can have is aldosteronism or Conn's syndrome. अगर ओवर सिक्रीशन होगा, सो अगर बेसी है दैट मीन्स ओवर सिक्रीशन ऑफ एल्डोस्टेरोन, व्हाट यू कैन हैव मोर अपटेक ऑफ सोडियम. तो सोडियम हाई लेवल्स होंगे ब्लड में, तो ब्लड वॉल्यूम भी इंक्रीज होगा, ब्लड प्रेशर भी इंक्रीज होगा, एंड लेस पोटेशियम ब्लड में होगा. सो दीज आर सम ऑफ द सिम्टम्स ऑफ द Conn's syndrome. Now coming to the next group, that is glucocorticoids. So this is produced by the middle layer, what we said as zona fasciculata. And but this layer, this glucocorticoids, how it will be stimulated to be released will be by ACTH, that is adrenocorticotropic hormone from the anterior pituitary. If you recall, तब हमने बोला था कि ACTH will act upon the adrenals but stimulate it to produce either glucocorticoids and sex corticoids. So ACTH will stimulate zona fasciculata to pour their secretions, that is glucocorticoids. We said these are a group of hormones. So main hormone इसमें क्या है? Cortisol है, cortisones and corticosterone है. Coming to the functions of glucocorticoids. So gluco means glucose. तो क्या करता है ये? It raises the blood glucose levels. That means it is a hyperglycemic hormone. How does it raise the blood glucose levels? By stimulating gluconeogenesis. Gluco means glucose, neo means new. New means non-carbohydrate source. Normally carbohydrates से glucose बनता है, that's the source. But अगर we have production of glucose from non-carbohydrate source, so that is genesis means synthesis. So gluconeogenesis means synthesis of glucose from non-carbohydrate source. And also it is going to promote formation of glycogen, and that is called as glycogenesis. Glyco means glycogen, genesis means synthesis, where it happens in the liver. It will also stimulate breakdown of proteins, that is called as proteolysis, fats, lipolysis, और inhibit करेगा uptake of amino acids and glucose by the cells. So it's going to inhibit cellular uptake of amino acids and glucose. So if the amino acids and glucose don't enter the cells, they are not allowed to enter the cells. So what it is going to raise the blood glucose levels. It also releases energy from fats and mobilizes amino acids for repair. It maintains cardiovascular function by increasing heart contraction, pumping of the blood, as well as kidney functions in controlling salt and water balance and blood pressure. It helps to reduce pain and inflammation. Inflammation means swelling agar ho. So this is also used in the form of drugs also to treat arthritis, to reduce inflammation and pain in arthritis, or also in autoimmune diseases, etc. Now coming to the disorders. First is the Addison's disease due to under secretion of aldosterone and cortisol. तो इसमें क्या सिम्टम है? पेन होगा एब्डोमेन में, डिजीनेस जैसे वो चक्कर, then low blood pressure, water electrolyte imbalance. So low blood pressure क्योंकि low level sodium का है तो water imbalance हो, कम होगा पानी because of low sodium levels, electrolyte imbalance, less sodium, more potassium, darkening of skin, etc. Cushing syndrome due to hypersecretion of cortisol, and that hypersecretion will cause high BP, hyperglycemia, blood sugar ज़्यादा होगा, it can get excreted in the urine, that is the adrenal diabetes, obesity है, electrolyte imbalance है, etc. Now coming to the third group of hormones that is secreted by the adrenal cortex, that is sex corticoids. And this is produced by the middle layer, that is zona fasciculata, it should be A here, and zona reticularis under the influence of ACTH from the anterior pituitary. और ये प्रोड्यूस करते हैं हॉर्मोन्स विच कैन बी एंड्रोजेंस, एस्ट्रोजेंस एंड प्रोजेस्टोजेंस. एंड्रोजेंस कहाँ पे होंगे? मेल्स को में असर करेगा इन डेवलपमेंट ऑफ एक्सटर्नल सेक्स कैरेक्टर्स. Estrogens and progestogens will function in females in the formation of external sex characters. So these hormones play a role in the development of external sex characters like growth of the axial hair, pubic hair and facial hair during puberty. And the male pattern of hair distribution and the female pattern of hair distribution is different. Females have high pitch voices, males have low pitch voices, so there is also the difference in the vocal cords. Now one disease that can occur in females due to excess secretion of androgens will be adrenal virilism, where the females will show some male type external sex characters like deep voice like in male, or male pattern of hair distribution, etc. Now coming to the second part of the adrenals, that is adrenal medulla, the centrally located जो है बीच में. We said कहाँ से derive होता है? From the ectoderm, and it is stimulated by sympathetic nervous system. So this sympathetic nervous system and the hormones that is released from the adrenal medulla will be having the same function. So nerve fibers from the sympathetic will be going into the adrenal medulla, and both have the same function. That means both will be producing the same effect. So we have in the medulla the endocrine cells, and that is the chromaffin cells that produces catecholamines, दो catecholamine hormones. Catecholamines are what? Catechol is dihydroxybenzene. बेंजीन का अगर स्ट्रक्चर याद है, उसमें दो हाइड्रोक्सिल ग्रुप लगा के एक अमाइनो ग्रुप अटैच करके, these are catecholamines, and these are derived from, synthesized from the amino acid tyrosine, and these are adrenaline or epinephrine, noradrenaline or norepinephrine. Both are more or less have the same functions. When are these secreted? That means both these hormones will be secreted from the adrenal medulla, as well as the sympathetic nerve system will also be stimulated, and they are going to be, and they both will be secreted when, or be stimulated when, will act together. That means these hormones as well as the sympathetic nervous system will act together in stress or emergency. So they are going to respond, and they are secreted in response to stress or emergency. So whenever our body is faced with any stress or emergency, so there are certain changes will be produced in our body. Like suppose if somebody says there's danger outside, so what changes our body will experience? You will find that we'll start sweating, our heart will start pounding, you will literally hear the beating of the heart, your pupils are going to widen, your hair becomes erect, what we say as goosebumps. So all these changes are in response to what? Secretion of adrenaline. At the same time, what will be stimulated will be the sympathetic nervous system, and they are going to fight that stress or emergency. So that stress or emergency is not necessary, it's external, it can be internal. There can be a fall in the blood sugar level, that is a stress for us. There can be a fall in the blood pressure. There can be an emotional stress. So these are, and at that time which hormones will be secreted? These adrenaline and non-adrenaline, as well as a sympathetic. As well, what will be stimulated will be the sympathetic nervous system. So they are also called as hormones of triple F. So you will fight because the stress or fright, or you can flee from that stress. That means flight, fight, fright, and flight. So that's why they are known as triple F. Now coming to the functions. Just now we said that when they are secreted, alertness will become alert, mentally active, pupils dilate होंगे, piloerection, that means hair will stand out, become erect, जैसे जिसको goosebumps भी बोलते हैं, sweating होगा, etc. Plus increase in the heart rate, cardiac output increase होगा, rate of breathing increase होगा, blood जाएगा muscles में, so that you can flee from that situation. It is going to cause the breakdown of glycogen into glucose, increase blood sugar, which is needed for oxidation to release energy, breakdown of lipids and proteins, and which is not necessary at that time. That function will be decreased. That means peristalsis, gut mein digestion will be decreased, and urinary output will decrease. So this is all to prepare to fight that stress or emergency, whether it's external or whether it is internal. Now coming to the next endocrine gland, which you have studied in your elementary canal also, that is pancreas. Pancreas we say is an heterocrine gland or a composite gland of endodermal origin. Why we say as a heterocrine gland? Because इसमें दोनों parts है, exocrine part B or endocrine part B. Exocrine part, that is the acinus, which produces the pancreatic juice. और endocrine part कौन सा है? That is called as islets of Langerhans. और इस islets of Langerhans में 4 different types of endocrine cells है, and they are going to secrete these hormones. What are they? Alpha cells 20% है, that secretes glucagon. Beta cells 70% है, that is they have the major cells that secretes insulin. Delta cells that secretes somatostatin, and the last PP cells or gamma cells that secrete pancreatic polypeptide. That's why it's called as PP, for pancreatic polypeptide. Let's see the functions of these. First, your main hormone hai, that is insulin. So it's a peptide hormone. What do you mean by peptide? A short chain of protein, and this is secreted by the beta cells of the islets of Langerhans. And when this will be secreted? When there is high glucose and amino acid content in our blood. और कब होगा high glucose or amino acid? And after a meal, the food gets digested, so the levels of glucose in the blood and the levels of amino acid will increase. अब क्या function है, कहाँ पे act करेगा? Hepatocytes पे और adipocytes पे. Hepatocytes are liver cells, adipocytes are cells of the adipose tissue. अब how it is going to decrease the glucose levels? It is going to increase the cellular glucose uptake. That means under the influence of insulin, glucose will enter the cells, and within the cells glucose will be utilized, and as a result what is going to happen? जो ये blood glucose है उसका level decrease होगा क्योंकि वो cells में घुस गया है, and it has been utilized there. Excess जो है वो store होगा as glycogen, and therefore since it decreases the levels of glucose in blood, what we are going to call it as hypoglycemic hormone. Hypo means less, it's going to decrease, glycemic means glucose, so hypoglycemic hormone. It will also stimulate conversion of excess glucose जो है in the liver into glycogen, and that is called as glycogenesis in the target cells. Which are the target cells? Hepatocytes and adipocytes. It will also help in conversion of glucose into fatty acids, and amino acids will be converted into proteins. it is going to increase fat synthesis in the adipose tissue. रिड्यूस करेगा ब्रेकडाउन किसका, प्रोटीन्स एंड फैट्स का. तो हम क्या देख रहे हैं, ज़्यादातर सिंथेसिस होगा ग्लूकोज ग्लाइकोजन में, ग्लूकोज फैटी एसिड्स में, अमीनो एसिड्स प्रोटीन्स में, फैट सिंथेसिस होगा. तो इसको क्या बोलते हैं, दिस इज कॉल्ड एज एन एनाबॉलिक हार्मोन. नाउ कमिंग टू द डिसऑर्डर्स. सो डिसऑर्डर एक ही लिस्टेड है कि अगर अंडर सिक्रीशन होगा, अंडर मीन्स हाइपो, हाइपो मीन्स अंडर सिक्रीशन है इंसुलिन का. सो ऑब्वियसली व्हाट इज गोइंग टू हैपन कि इंसुलिन ग्लूकोज विल नॉट बी एंटरिंग द सेल्स, सो इट विल बी अक्यूमुलेट कहाँ होगा, ब्लड में एक्सेस हो जाएगा, एंड दिस एक्सेस ग्लूकोज विल बी एक्सक्रीटेड इन यूरिन, and you know that is called as diabetes mellitus. Diabetes mellitus में भी ketone bodies form होते हैं due to incomplete oxidation of fats. Now, if you can have type 1 diabetes that occurs in infants. If it's type 1 diabetes, तब generally it's an autoimmune disease जहाँ पे antibodies produce होते हैं in the child, and that is going to destroy the pancreas. So as a result, इंसुलिन का सिक्रेशन नहीं होता, कम होता है. और यू कैन हैव टाइप 2 डायबिटीज जो बड़ों में होता है, अडल्ट्स में है ड्यू टू ओबेसिटी, ड्यू टू लैक ऑफ एक्सरसाइज. तो उसमें या तो फिर उसकी वजह से पैनक्रियाज इंसुलिन नहीं उतना सिक्रीट करता है, और देयर इज समथिंग रॉन्ग इन द अपटेक ऑफ ग्लूकोज बाय द सेल्स. मतलब सेल्स रिसीव नहीं करते हैं, रिसेप्टर्स में कुछ प्रॉब्लम है ऑन द सर्फेस ऑफ द टारगेट टिश्यू, दैट इज द लिवर सेल्स, hepatocytes, and glucose is not entering the cell, so it's not getting utilized. So as a result, excess glucose remains in the blood. So that is type 2 diabetes, which is more common. Next hormone is glucagon. So what is glucagon? A peptide hormone secreted by the alpha cells of the islets of Langerhans, और इसका function opposite है to that of insulin. So कब stimulate होगा, जब decrease होगा in the level of plasma glucose, blood glucose का level decrease हो. तो क्या इसका function है कि ये raise करेगा blood glucose levels को. So what we call it as a hyperglycemic hormone. So functions क्या है, कैटाबॉलिक हार्मोन. कैटाबॉलिक मीन्स ब्रेक डाउन करता है, और अभी जैसे बोला कि इसका फंक्शन ऑपोजिट होगा टू इंसुलिन. सो क्या करेगा, प्रमोट. इंसुलिन क्या करता था, ग्लूकोज कन्वर्ट करता था ग्लाइकोजन, तो ये उल्टा करेगा क्या, दैट मीन्स गोइंग टू ब्रेक डाउन ग्लाइकोजन इनटू ग्लूकोज, एंड दैट इज कॉल्ड एज ग्लाइकोजिनोलाइसिस इन द लिवर. और जो ये ग्लूकोज बनता है दैट विल बी रिलीज्ड इन द ब्लड. So just now we said, so this is just a repetition. Abhi we said a catabolic hormone and has opposite effects to insulin. So this is the same point we said in the previous slide, that is conversion of glycogen into glucose in the liver, which is released in the blood. It also stimulates the process of gluconeogenesis. Gluconeogenesis means formation of, what did we say just now, formation of glucose from non-carbohydrate sources. So what will be the non-carbo amino acids like and lactic acid and glycerol. From there glucose will be synthesized, so that is called as gluconeogenesis. It also reduces cellular glucose uptake, that means glucose won't enter the cells, and as a result will remain in the blood and will increase its level. It will also act on the adipose tissue to stimulate the breakdown of fats to generate energy. Coming to the third, that is somatostatin. So this is released by the delta cells of the islets of Langerhans. ये दोनों hormones का levels को control में रखता है, insulin and glucagon. So it is going to inhibit the release of insulin and glucagon. And during the deficiency of glucose, somatostatin won't function, because at that time deficiency of glucose acts as a stress. What will be released? Catecholamines from the adrenal medulla, and that is going to inhibit the secretion of somatostatin. Fourth and the last hormone of the pancreas is pancreatic polypeptide, short form PP. So that is secreted by PP or the gamma cells of the islets of Langerhans. So it is an inhibitory function, that it is going to inhibit the secretion of the pancreatic juice. Now coming to the next, that is the gonads. So gonads, you'll have the testes in case of males and the ovaries in case of females, and having both different functions obviously, but more or less parallel to each other. First is the testes. So what is the endocrine part of the testes? कौन से सेल secrete करते हैं? The hormones, that is the interstitial cells of Leydig. कहाँ पे है? In between the seminiferous tubules. So testes के भीतर में coiled tubules हैं, that is called as seminiferous tubules. And what happens here? The process of spermatogenesis will be taking place here. And these interstitial cells of Leydig is going to secrete, in between these seminiferous tubules will be present the interstitial cells of Leydig. And these are going to secrete the androgens, the hormones what we call as androgens, जिसमें main hormone कौन सा है? Testosterone. And which hormone from the pituitary, anterior pituitary, is going to influence the interstitial cells of Leydig to produce their secretion will be LH, that is luteinizing hormone, or ICSH. In males it is also, LH is also called as ICSH. Why? I stands for interstitials, C for cells stimulating hormone from the anterior pituitary. So what is the function? Testes is a primary sex organs, so it is going to regulate the development, maturation and functions of the secondary sex organs of the male, like you have the epididymis, vas deferens, seminal vesicle, prostate gland, etc. It stimulates spermatogenesis, which takes place where? Inside these seminiferous tubules. It will also cause the development of external male sex characters, like you have beard, mustache, low pitch voice, etc. It stimulates muscular growth. So under the influence of testosterone, males have much build-up of muscles as compared to females. It acts on the central nervous system and influences the male sexual behavior. Now coming to the next part, that is the ovaries. Ovary is the primary sex organs in case of females, and they secrete these steroid hormones which are estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen, in which the main is estradiol, or it can be there some amount of estriol also and estrone also. And where is estrogen? Where it is secreted? Inside the ovary there are many ovarian follicles, और इस ovarian follicles के बीच में oocyte है, that is going to develop as first as a primary oocyte, then the secondary oocyte, and later it's going to form the egg. So within these ovarian follicles, so these follicular cells, जो इस ovarian follicles में cells हैं, they are going to secrete this hormone, that is estrogen. And estrogen will be stimulated to be released from the ovarian follicle by which hormone? From the anterior pituitary, that is FSH, follicle stimulating hormone. So that is going to help in the growth of these ovarian follicles, follicle stimulating hormone. और इस ovarian follicles में जो follicular cells है वो क्या secrete करेंगे? Estrogen. और थोड़ा सा estrogen कहाँ से secrete होगा? Corpus luteum से भी और placenta से भी. Placenta is a connection between the fetus and the mother, and everything that the child needs, fetus needs, as in oxygen, food, etc., will be taken from the mother's blood, from the placenta, and passed into the fetus. Coming to the function, estrogen is going to stimulate the growth and activities of female secondary sex organs. कौन से होंगे? एक तो fallopian tube है, uterus है, vagina है, उनके normal activities govern करेगा. और also I said कि ovarian follicles में ova differentiate होगा, पहले primary oocyte होगा, फिर secondary oocyte होगा, and then the ovum will be formed, और वो किसके अंडर होगा? Estrogen. So that is going to stimulate the growing ovarian follicle, development of the growing ovarian follicle, and differentiation of the ova, that is oogenesis. It also stimulates the estrogen. We are talking about the appearance of female secondary सेक्स कैरेक्टर्स, जो एक्सटर्नल सेक्स कैरेक्टर्स हैं, जैसे हाई पिच वॉइस है, फीमेल पैटर्न ऑफ बॉडी हेयर है, डेवलपमेंट ऑफ द मैमरी ग्लैंड्स है, एक्सेट्रा. It is going to regulate female sexual behavior. This hormone is also responsible for that monthly cycle that occurs in female, that is called as the menstrual cycle. Coming to the second hormone of the female, that is progesterone. कहाँ से secrete होता है कॉर्पस ल्यूटियम. हमने पहले भी बोला था कि कॉर्पस ल्यूटियम कैसे बनता है कि जब वन ऑफ द ओवेरियन फॉलिकल्स मैच्योर, and that mature ovarian follicle is called as Graafian follicle. ये Graafian follicle surface of the ovary पे आएगा, rupture होगा and release the egg. Release of the egg or the secondary oocyte from the Graafian follicle is called as ovulation. So ovulation के बाद जो ये empty खाली जो Graafian follicle बचता है in the ovary, that will be converted into a yellow body that is called as corpus luteum, under the influence of which hormone? LH. So if you recall, LH के दो functions हैं. एक क्या है? Ovulation, और दूसरा क्या है? Formation of corpus luteum from the Graafian follicle. This corpus luteum will secrete the second female hormone, that is progesterone. So progesterone के क्या functions है? Progesterone is regarded as a pregnancy hormone. क्या करता है वो? कि it is going to thicken the endometrium. कि अगर fertilization होती है, ये prepare करेगा uterus को. कैसे prepare करेगा? By thickening of the endometrium of the uterus. Endometrium is the innermost glandular layer of the uterus during the menstrual cycle. ये first काम है. अब thicken कर दिया. Thicken इसलिए करते हैं ताकि अगर fertilization होती है और एक embryo form होता है, then this hormone will help in embedding, implantation of the embryo into the uterus, into the endometrium of the uterus during pregnancy. फिर progesterone will also help in the development of the placenta. और ये maintain करेगा pregnancy को. That means for throughout the 9 months of the gestation period, 9 months the child is inside the mother's womb, the fetus is inside the mother's womb, तो 9 months में ये progesterone secrete होना ही है, because ये maintain करेगा pregnancy को by maintaining the lining of the endometrium. So that is why this is also called as a pregnancy hormone. Besides this, what it is going to stimulate? Formation of the alveoli in the mammary glands, because during pregnancy the growth of the mammary glands is going to increase, and that will be under the progesterone, and that for what? For the milk secretion after the birth of the child. Now coming to the hormones of the heart, kidney and the gastrointestinal tract. So first is the heart. You already have read this, that it secretes a peptide hormone that is called as atrial natriuretic factor, short form ANF. Atrial क्योंकि atrium से secrete होता है, natri because it is going to increase, natri means sodium, uretic के kidneys में या nephron में, this thing nephron में the sodium will be eliminated out. So that is what we are saying here, that atrial natriuretic factor in response to atrial stretch. Atrial stretch कब होगा? जब blood pressure increase होगा. So atrium is going to stretch. वही जो stretch receptors हैं वो promote करेंगे secretion of ANF और atrial natriuretic factor. तो किस पे एक्ट करता है? किडनीज पे. क्या काम करेगा? It is going to increase sodium excretion and GRF, and will inhibit sodium and water reabsorption by what? Inhibiting what? Renin secretion. because it has to eliminate sodium. अगर सोडियम एलिमिनेट हो गया तो वाटर भी रीअब्सॉर्ब नहीं होगा, तो ब्लड प्रेशर डिक्रीज होगा. और ये ऑल्सो स्टिमुलेट करेगा डायलेशन ऑफ ब्लड वेसल्स को and hence reduce blood pressure. So this is a hormone that is going to reduce blood pressure, a very common question that you have in your NEET exam. Coming to the next, that is kidney. Kidneys you have read, one is the renin that is secreted, that function you already know. Besides it also secretes erythropoietin. So from the JG cells or the juxtaglomerular cells in the kidneys. अब इसका क्या काम है, ये क्या stimulate करेगा? Erythropoiesis. Erythro means RBC, poiesis means synthesis. That means it is going to stimulate the formation of RBCs in response to hypoxia. So अगर किसी को kidney problem होगी, kidney infection होगा, there are chances that the person will also be suffering from anemia. Now coming to the hormones of the gastrointestinal tract. First is the gastrin. कहाँ से secrete होता है? From the pyloric mucosa. And it's going to stimulate the gastric glands to produce gastric juice. Next is the secretin. Excuse me. That is secreted from the duodenal mucosa. And what it is going to stimulate? The secretion of water and bicarbonates. क्योंकि जो फर्स्ट बैच निकलता है बाइल और पैनक्रियाटिक जूस का, that will be rich in bicarbonates, and pancreatic juice will be poured in the enzyme. Why? Because first job of these secretions is to neutralize the acidity of the chyme. जो gastric juice का जो घुस गया है duodenum में, उसको neutralize करना है and make the medium alkaline, because rest of the enzymes that is present in the intestinal juice, that is present in the pancreatic juice, will be acting only in an alkaline medium. तो फिर दूसरा enzyme secrete होता है, दूसरा hormone secrete होता है, sorry, that is cholecystokinin, CCK or pancreozymin. It is secreted from the duodenal mucosa as the secretin is, और इसका क्या function है? Contraction of the gallbladder for the release of bile. और also stimulate करेगा pancreas को to produce pancreatic juice, now rich in enzymes for the digestion of various classes of food. Now next hormone is gastric inhibitory peptide, GIP. So inhibition करेगा gastric juice को. कहाँ से secrete होता है? But from the intestinal mucosa. So it's going to inhibit gastric secretion and motility. It also increases insulin secretion. Last hormone is enterogastrone. कहाँ से secrete होता है? Duodenal mucosa, but in response to dietary lipids. अगर lipids ज़्यादा है food में, then this will be secreted. And it's also going to reduce motility of the stomach and acid secretion of the stomach. So that's all for today. Thank you. And if you have any doubt, contact us, and be regular in watching these videos. So God bless you all. That's all.